for those who.
Listeners of Real FM 91.9, 91.5, www.drealfmgrenada.com. It is another Wednesday morning, and it is the conversation with the Rgpf. I am none other than Sergeant Jessel Grant from the Community Relations Department of the Eastern Division. And whenever you hear the voice of a Jamu, you know it is that morning. This Wednesday morning is wonderful. Not too much sun, no rain, just right. Whatever your career, your skill, or your profession, you can continue to do so because the atmosphere is just accommodating. But let me just pause and say Happy New Year to all of my listeners, regardless to where you are, where you're located, whatever you're doing at this time. Happy 2025. And you know what, listeners? It's a long time that the manager himself has been in the studio when it is the conversation with the Rgpf. Yeah, he just ran. So, Mr. Donald and your staff, we say Happy New Year and thank you for such an opportunity whereby we can continue to use your institution as a medium to communicate with the wider public, to disseminate information. However, this year, we intend to intensify our programs and our communication. And in so doing, we will, as what is happening now, we'll be streaming via YouTube and Facebook. So our listeners can go right ahead and log on too. And yes, it's give us a pleasure to be here. So I have my guests in studio. And I am always happy and delighted when my guests are or is from the management of the division. Why? With either of them from the managerial level of the Eastern Division being in studio with the program, it gives you, the listener, the opportunity to understand that when the junior ranks come here as per their department and share information, that it's not just what they want to say, but it is in sync with the administrative guidance and directive. Additionally, my managers, they also speak in sync with the Rgpf strategic plan and instruction/directives hand down. So it is a chain effect. Added to that, every festive season, whenever we launch a operation order, we normally has a member or members of the management team from our division to let you know the posture, what we expect of you, what we are looking forward for that festive season. And at the end of it, we do come back again with a member of the management team to let you know what it was, whether to say thank you, whether to seek further partnership, or whether to say it was not. But I remember sending out that clarion call that let our Christmas be like our Carnival 2024, where there was no homicide. And I'm not going to blow my horn, neither let it be without any serious crimes. Neither I'm not going to blow my horn. I would allow my guests to give you the information. So at this time, I would go straight ahead and say good morning to you, sir, and how are you?
Good morning to you, Sergeant Grant, and I am blessed, and it's a pleasure to be here, and I just want to say a very special good morning to your listening and viewing audience, and Happy New Year to each and every one of you. I pray that the New Year brings you prosperity and peace, and we, as an organization, the Rgpf, we commit to doing everything within our mandate to ensure that you as citizens are able to go about your lives in peace and tranquility.
Right. But I know it's not the first time you being here, and I concur your introduction, but persons may be able to listen and see you and say who you are, but for those who are listening, they might be wondering, who is that officer? He's so little in stature, and she is saying one of her managers. So go right ahead and just let the listeners know who you are, and I deliberately do that.
Okay, so again, my name is Kenneth Bascom, Assistant Superintendent of Police, attached to the Eastern Division. I'm presently the officer second in charge of the division, and I'm here today representing the officer in charge of the division.
Thank you. And I want to say again, welcome to St. Patrick's. I know you had a stint within the Western Division, and within your policing career, so what has been some of the areas you had performed duties?
Okay, just by way of background, so I'm 24 years in the service. Half of that was spent in the prosecution department, so I've basically prosecuted in every magisterial court in the Trial and State of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique, and I've worked in each of the divisions also, including the Western. I spent about 3 stints in the Western Division, including 1 stint being in charge of the Sotes police station. So
Right.
I'm in familiar territory.
Okay, welcome still, Crown City. We know
Thank
you
you.
from the East.
Yes.
But let us go straight in, because I say to you, sir, whenever we are on the conversation with the RGPF, the time run by. And I know for the start of the year, there are information that you want to disseminate and also requests that you would wish to make from our listeners, especially within our policing division. But while we piggyback on giving a update or a preview as to how the season went, before we go into the Yulide, can we just back up a bit to that community policing strategic approach that we had within the last period of 2024, starting from September, where the Eastern Division, it was throughout the state, but we're speaking of the Eastern Division, embarked on a series of community policing activities where you were the chairman of that committee. Can you just enlighten our listeners as to how successful or unsuccessful that had been?
Right, so yes, certainly. Right, so as our listeners may or may not know, the trust of the RGPF right now is community policing. And the entire 2024, we had a vigorous drive in the area of community policing, and in particular for the last quarter of the year 2024, the Commissioner of Police mandated that we intensify that effort, right? And specific to the Eastern Division, we engaged in a number of activities in this regard, and as you said, I was tasked with the responsibility of chairing our community policing subcommittee. And just to give some of the activities we undertook for the period, we had cultural extravaganza. And before I go ahead, let me just say what we did is that we spread the activity throughout the entire division. Right? For persons who may not know, the Eastern Division geographically stretches from part of St. Patrick's to the whole of St. Andrew and the whole of St. David. So it's a massive chunk of the country that that makes up the Eastern Division. And so we wanted to bring our community policing activities to each parish within the division. So for example, for our cultural extravaganza, we targeted our St. Patrick's part of the division, that is in Hermitage. We used the Hermitage Government School, where we coordinated with the school leadership, and we had an extravaganza there. A number of schools participated. The police band was there. It was an engaging, entertaining session, and it was very well received and very well attended. We also had in St. Andrews, there are several activities, because we could appreciate St. Andrew being the biggest part of the division, quite naturally. We had a town hall session that was held for the general public. That was held in the Deluxe Cinema, again, where we brought in a number of subject matter experts, including our now acting Commissioner of Police, Mr. Randy Connaught, Assistant Commissioner of Police, Vanny Cowan, and others were there to engage with the public and answer questions. I must also say and commend our parliamentary representatives and so government officials from the St. Andrew area. Some of them were in attendance and made very welcome remarks and suggestions. We also had a business town hall in the Grenville Secondary School, where we targeted our business partners in the St. Andrew area. Again, that was well received. We had a health fair that took place closer to the Christmas season. in the Grenville area, because again we always encourage healthy living.
Right.
While it was very well attended because it was promoted and hyped up and so, unfortunately for us, it ended on a sad note where in that one of our participants collapsed and died at the Princess Alice Hospital. And so again, we want to take the opportunity again to send out condolences to her family and loved ones. So we had that. We had a health fair that was held at the Birch Grove Community Center, where we coordinated, we teamed up with the groups, the cultural groups in Birch Grove area. We did a number of screening, testing, and so persons were able to come and get health checks and the like from this. That again was well received. We had a number of school visits throughout the division, all in different parishes, primary and secondary schools, where we engage. And for those school visits, we focus on an anti-bullying campaign. And I would like to say that our facilitator for that part of it was our host, Sergeant Grant, and also Woman Corporal Fari, attached to Special Victims Unit. And they receive significant kudos from the schools that we had those sessions with. And we sort of closed it off because we were in the Yulide season.
Right.
And Yulide is the season where you share joy and cheer. And so we wanted to close it off on a nice note. And so on the 19th of December, we had a band concert at Latant, where the number one band in the Caribbean was there, entertaining the audience. And so a number of persons were in attendance and they enjoyed themselves. So yeah, that was some of our activities for the community policing for the year in review.
Right. Mm-hmm. Just to piggyback on that, sometimes as organizers, you do activities and you kind of rate what the reception was like. Sometimes you rate based on your attendees. Did I achieve my goal and my mandate? But I'd like to inform you that persons are still meeting us or myself and asking, when are you coming back? Or I heard Birch Grove got that. I heard you had Tongal here. When is my community benefiting? And when are you coming back as the police? Some of them are asking if it's only Hermitage School that is good enough for the band. So I raised that to bring to the forefront that there are community members that is yearning for that bond and relationship with the police. It is how do we maintain and continue to foster those. And I must say publicly that I was delighted to work along with you on that committee. And coming into your district, that 2 secondary schools were really warming and eye-opening as to embracing the whole aspect of bullying. And I know our task is demanding, but our stakeholders has been contributing, and I say kudos. Listeners, I know that there had been community members who had contributed to the success of what ASP Bascom just spoke of, because you, the parents, allowed your children to participate, and some of you parents and adults had came out and participated one way or the other. So I joined with ASP Bascom to say thank you for that. Now, as he said, listeners, the community policing aspect had it to end for that period because of Yulide. Let us jump a bit into Yulide. And Yulide is the whole aspect of Christmas. Before we go into the breakdown of the achievements or non-achievements, what, in your opinion, would you say that season had been for the division?
Well, of course, I would say Yulide for the Eastern Division was a very peaceful one.
Right.
I think is quite possibly one of the most peaceful Yulide seasons I would have seen since my time in the Rgpf. And so I want to congratulate and give a huge tap on the shoulder to our residents, because it is not the police alone.
Exactly.
By and large, if we are peaceful, it's because the people are being peaceful. And so I want to say thumbs up and let us continue to make Grenada the safest place in the world.
Right. But with all of that, and you being able to say that, and it comes about through statistics. But at the same time, I don't think that there was not misdemeanors or breakdown of offenses or the law. So on that note, I would now ask, in terms of your statistical review, how do you dissect some of the interactions or activities that the police would have spearheaded? And let us start from the traffic aspect. Why traffic? 2 weeks leading up to the Yulide, the height of the Christmas season, traffic department had been in studio speaking of the management plan for especially the town of Grenville, considering that there has been so much construction to the road and digging up of the road, which had infringed on the smooth flow of traffic. Secondly, within the management plan, there was a lot of emphasis being placed on Sendall Street. That's the eastern main road in and out. And thirdly, St. Andrews, or the eastern division, being the hub or the pass-through for most of the traffic that are or normally be in St. George's. So that in and of itself has been a lot of echo leading up to the Christmas by the traffic department. I know they spoke of some prevalent offenses. In light of all of that, how successful or not can you speak of the traffic department fulfilling its mandate within the period?
Well, certainly. I would say Yulide period 2024 was a very rewarding period again for the division as far as our traffic operations were concerned. And of course, I don't want to just come here and make claims that I can back up. As you intimated, it is backed up by our statistics because the numbers tell a story. Mm-hmm. So for the Yulide season, and just for our listeners, Yulide for the Rgpf basically starts on the 1st of November. So it runs all the way towards to the Old Year's night, basically into the New Year morning. So that period is our Yulide period as an organization. So for that period, the Eastern Division, we had 28 traffic checks. And coming out of those 28 traffic checks, a total of 11,518 vehicles were checked, for compliance to our various laws and regulations. Mm-hmm. And out of those checks, we had 558 tickets issued. So yes, we had some persons who had some issues with, I would say, traffic violations. 558 tickets issued. Uninsured drivers, we arrested. So drivers who were arrested for, unlicensed.
Okay.
We had 19 drivers arrested for driving without license during that period. And that is for the Eastern Division. Right? So that is, to my mind, an alarmingly high number. And so we want to take the opportunity to encourage our drivers, our young people especially, because most of them are young people by and large, to do the right thing. Go through the process and obtain your driver's license. We had 14 vehicles impounded, right? Mm-hmm. So that is as far as the traffic aspect is concerned. So as I said, we were very active. Right. Because to mount 28 traffic checks and check over 11,000 vehicles and arrest 19 persons for driving without license, to my mind, and then also taking 14 uninsured vehicles off the street for that period, I think that is quite commendable.
Definitely. And not just that, when you look at the staff, mm-hmm. I always ask Corporal Houston, being in charge of the traffic department, with such limited staff, mm-hmm. augmented by the traffic wardens, how do they get it done? Mm-hmm. And I want to publicly extend kudos and compliment that department for a work well done, mm-hmm. regardless to some of the complaints that comes in as to what is deemed to be unprofessional or harassment. If we do not man the streets, it will be chaotic right through. Mm-hmm. And a traffic violation, certainly, just as domestic violence, can increase our criminal records or statistics. Mm-hmm. Addition to that of the traffic management and the whole issue of traffic and road safety, another aspect in the operational order when that was spoken of by then ASP Rodney as to the posture for the Yulide season was our major operations. And he did allude then the purpose of the operations again is to keep our citizens and all of our visitors safe in terms of the illegal substance, the weapons, and the likes for major offenses being committed. What information can you share with our listeners in regards to the conduct or achievements of that major operations?
Right. So as you said, we are also mandated during the Yulide period to conduct major operations for obvious reasons. One, to increase visibility as a deterrent, but also our detection and rates and so. And by way of major operations, we had 9 major operations for the division for the period under review. We executed some 62 such warrants. We had also 5 warrant drives. And just to explain to the viewing audience, a warrant drive is basically where we would mount an operation to basically look for persons, apprehend persons who have outstanding warrants from the court, either for not attending court, payment of monies, and so that is due. So you either pay the monies, or if you don't pay the monies, then you get what we call, what is termed as being committed to prison.
Right.
So we had 5 major warrant drives also. We collected in cash some $31,822. And 3 persons were sent to prison. And let me just, because persons might say, well, what is the significance of giving the amount you collected in cash? Remember, that is the Christmas period for one. And most importantly, a significant portion of that cash that was collected is for the non-payment of maintenance for children and so, and mostly fathers who fail to maintain their children and so. And so it means that some children would have had a better Christmas, yes, because of the efforts of the Eastern Division of the Royal Grenada Police Force. So maybe a ham, because that is a traditional thing, a toy, some extra spending money so that they can, go and have a little chill out in chillax in one of our businesses. And so that is why we highlighted that, right, because we are mindful of those kind of issues.
But if I may interject here, I'm happy that you allude and explain to that, because oftentimes persons hear these monies and see officers on these warrant drives operation and they perceive it's government money, but only to realize most of these monies are in regards to child maintenance. Yes. And our young ones need to be maintained. Imagine you're within a community as a child, and I'm speaking a child under the teenage years, and every other home within that village or within your community has what is called Christmas, the lights, the meals, the drinks, and the toys, and you are just there. You are just there. Just picture that. Everybody's going to make their line, and you're just home shabby, nothing new, nothing different. So I'm happy that you went on to explain that the chunk of these warrants is more so to maintenance. But you can continue.
Yes, certainly. So as I said, so we consider it successful, and also another important reason why we consider the Yulide season, that period, to be successful is because we didn't have, or we saw a decline in our what I would call our serious offenses for that particular Yulide period, right? And of course, I hope maybe one of these days you would give us an opportunity to come back to give the breakdown of the yearly statistics. Right. But our initial numbers is showing us that we had a very peaceful and quiet 2024 Yulide season as far as serious crimes and so is concerned. So we saw that dropping, and for that we are happy. And again, I always like to go back to reminding us that we have to give the public the kudos for it, because if we have a bad, what would I call it? If we have an increase in crime, it is because members of the public are committing those crimes, albeit a large section, a small section, sorry. And so when we have peaceful, it means by and large that persons are more or less behaving in accordance with the law. And so, again, I want to tap them on the shoulder for that.
But I just want to back up a bit to the traffic aspect and reinforce that when we as drivers fail to adhere to the laws of the land and also that of driving with due care and attention and being considerate to other road users, mishaps and unfortunate situations like one of the fatals that we had within our Yulide season within the Hermitage Policing District, where a young man had lost his life subsequently. It was not on spot, it was subsequently, and we really extend from the Commissioner and ranks and file of the Rgpf, extend our condolences to the family. And we also extend empathy to the other driver, the driver who was also involved, because now you have investigation, possible charge or charges to come forth. But hence we say that yet for all, our Yulide was great. It was at the level where we can say hooray, or we can say to our listeners, you had done well, because there are other territories. The records can go back where their divisions are dealing with the same issues, and in terms of loss of life over the Yulide was only that. And let us look at homicides or murder. I mean, I came here after Carnival and I blew my horn. Why? I was happy because I begged our listeners, our stakeholders who are our community, please let us reduce the whole issue of serious crimes. For the Carnival, we rejoiced and celebrated in terms of the reduction in robbery with violence, or even robbery in terms of business places. How can we speak or say for the Christmas Yulide season in regards to that same aspect, in regards to our listeners and community members on the same aspect of serious crime, and which is robbery, homicide, attempted of either of these offenses are serious? What had it been for us for the Yulide season?
Oh yes, as you say, extremely good, because as you said, we had no recorded homicides for the Yulide season in the Eastern Division, and that is quite commendable. And as far as our serious crimes, robberies and the likes, I mean, I want to compare it to 2022, if you recall, when we had a series of robberies to our business places, and where, you know, I mean, we had to have police officers and who were supposed to be on the time of getting called in to secure business places, you know, and the likes. And I'm sure Grenadians could remember that, what that period was like 2 years ago. And comparing 2 years ago to now, I mean, the season was very quiet, and we have to be happy about that, because that is our recent history. So that must have been laboring in the back of our minds, right? And while we always give the kudos to the general public, but let me not minimize the efforts of the Rgpf, because I could tell you, and you know, because you are part of divisional management, that a lot of efforts went into strategizing and coming up with plans to ensure, you know, that we don't see a repeat of 2 years ago as far as robberies and other serious crimes for Yulide is concerned. So it was strategically done. We put a lot of resources into it, and we are also seeing the fruits of our labor in this regard. So
but
yes.
I must say, while one may say that the Rgpf is very young in terms of its human resource, I had seen that vigor, that enthusiasm in terms of officers' commitment to duty. Because I remembered 2022 and even an extent of 2023. I performed duties at business places that my feet were literally crying out. And 2024, I don't think, maybe 2 or 3. If we have more than 3, we have a lot within the division that had called for officers to augment their security staff on a day-to-day function over the Yulide season. And I just want to join voice with you and also with the management from the Eastern Division to say thank you to our citizens, to our residents, also to our business personnel for adhering to enforcing their security. And I know December month under the community policing strategic plan, when we said to CID, it is your mandate for that aspect or that activity to come up with whatever mechanism and measures for crime target hardening of business places and properties. And I must say that the business personnel who had answered the call to be part of the WhatsApp group to come out to that business community meeting, they had adhered to the call and reinforced their security measures. Hence, we are here this morning saying to our listeners that it was work well done and it was successful. But as you rightfully said, ASP, it had a lot of planning.
Yes.
What was some of the strategic measures that were put in place to enhance or to give us such a success in terms, well, I know that we had an increase in our police presence in terms of the mobile patrols and so forth. What were some of the other engagements that was used to have that achievement?
Okay, thank you. Well, as you said, I'll bear in mind, I wouldn't give too much because I always like to say criminals just watch TV and so today listening to us. But as you alluded to, a lot of planning. We did a lot of planning. You know, we gave a lot of tips to do target hardening. We increased our visibility significantly. And I think most importantly, what worked for us is our intelligence. Right. Because we do intelligence-driven policing. We don't just vote, right? And I wouldn't get into our intelligence.
No, hell no.
But just to let the public know that we are intelligence-driven. And so for criminals to be warned that we are intelligence-driven in our policing approach.
Of course, of course. I want to also echo the sentiment because I'm part of that group as well from the Grenville Police Station that Christmas Day, which has been apparently that's our third initiative, where the Grenville Police Station Citizen Advisory Body, CAB, under the leadership of Junior Faray as the president, had a feeding the vulnerable or less fortunate on that day. And I'm speaking of it and I'm just visualizing that day. I saw some of our less fortunate persons came out and participated by accepting the meals. And one guy said, "Black cake? Sorry, my Christmas is made." And he stood there with the glass and he just have it. And then he said, "May I have a second one? Thank you for making Christmas for me." Now, why did I raise that? Many a times, police officers partner with members of the community to bring joy and to make our less fortunate be counted and feel important. But those things don't capture, because let me say to you listeners, one of the mandates that Faray said, no photos to be taken while the meals are being served. We are not going to tell the community the faces of who we fed. What is important? The initiative was done. I also saw a clip of it on the Grenada Informer, I think, all right, where it was captured. And there was not a face. We've known of other institutions that had similar or different initiatives, and the faces of the vulnerable was there. And the president said, no, that would not be. We can show the preparation, we can speak of it, but no name calling. And it is not just the work of the police, but it was a partnership with various stakeholders within the communities. And communities here speaks of the geographical location for St. Andrews and also the different job sector of career personnel that came together and make that a success. So on that note, listeners, I am still saying to you that the Grenville Police Station CAB is functioning and we are soliciting new membership to add to the status quo as to how best we can give back to the community. It is the start of 2025 and we look forward to that. So to you listeners, I said whenever the conversation starts, we do not want to stop. We have just about 15 more minutes inside of it, but what I'll do at this time, let us just take some infomercial break. And this is not infomercials from Real FM, but it would be infomercials from the police, where I would be reminding you of some of the do's and don'ts as to how best to protect yourself and your loved ones. So, of course, if you see something, hear something, know something, we urge you to say something, and in so doing, we make our environment safer. One of our mandates within our last quarter of 2024 was to reduce the fear of crime, and it did not just stay into 2024, but we would continue with that aspect as to how do we reduce the fear of crime, because we are aware that we cannot get rid of crime, but if that fear is dealt with, we are in a better place. Of course, it is the second term of the school year, and it is the term where the sports meet will be coming on. It is the most active term for the school bodies, and we are asking all on sundry to give support to our young ones, to our future leaders. Additionally, we want to say to our parents and guardians, stay on top of your games with your children. So you should know when they have different sporting activities. You should know what the school day will be like, or where they would be congregating on whatever particular day it may be. We also want to ask you, parents and guardians, that you stay on top as to the dress code of your children, be it male or female, as to going out and participate in other activities that leads up to the school day sports. Additionally, parents and guardians, all on sundry, we want to remind you that we have a mandate to protect our young ones. I want to implore on us that we do not violate them. And while, yes, I'm hearing you saying, well, some of them have their own speed and some of them think that they're adults and wants to get involved or even coming on to you, I ask of you to run, because the law says no person under the age of 16 can give consent. So whether he or she says yes, it is no. And when they says no, it is still no. And failure to adhere to that may just result. I also want to say to your listeners, incest is showing its face. It is not a new monster. It has been there. But because of education, and that's my opinion, that because of the education that has been disseminated, we've been getting some increase in terms of the complaints. We want to ask everyone that securing of our children is everybody's business, not only tourism. So join us, the Eastern Division, and by extension, the Royal Grenada Police Force, the Ministry of Social Development, as we seek to protect our young ones. May I add, let us also secure our elderly. If you see something, hear something, know something, we ask of you to say something. It is the conversation with the Rgpf, and I am back with our guest in studio, where we are doing a recap of the 2024 Yulide season and also for the last quarter. ASP, before we jump a bit into the prospect of 2025, is there anything else you would wish to speak about in review for 2024?
Not necessarily, no. I say just to remind persons to let us keep the momentum going. We ended 2024 on a very good note, and let us carry the momentum into 2025 and beyond.
Right. So I know that the Commissioner of Police acting presently, but even before Acting Commissioner Connor takes the seat as Acting Commissioner for the RGPF, Commissioner Mackenzie, Commissioner Martin, and the allied SCOPAC has mandated community policing as one of the way or the main way forward for collaborating and even day-to-day policing. I also is aware that the Eastern Division sticks on their drive to fulfill that mandate to community policing. I am aware of the various community patrols and walkthroughs and school visits and the various initiatives of community policing. As the officer second in charge of the Eastern Division, what the posture looks like for us police for 2025 in regards to community policing?
Well, certainly, as you alluded to, community policing is here to stay. Right? I can dare say that community policing is a prominent part of the RGPF's mandate. Right? So, in 2025, expect to see us as the Eastern Division continuing with the community engagement that I spoken and you just reiterated. And some of the communities that you mentioned that were asking when would be their turn, I want to say to them, fear not, we'll be coming to you. So our visibility, our community engagements would be continued. We also want to continue to work on our customer service, of course, as an organization going forward, because we work for the people. I always say to officers, the taxpayers of the country are our bosses. Right. So I say to you, when they come into the station to make a report, or they call to make a report, bear in mind that you're actually speaking to your boss. That is the person that is paying your salary, right? And if we operate on that premise, then I think our customer service would be enhanced. Right. So we'll work on that also. A huge part of our trust and our mandate for 2025 would be to increase our speed of response. Because we are not deaf to the concerns and the calls and the queries from the public. And part of what they always say to us, yes, while you're making all the efforts, sometimes your response is a bit too delayed. Right. And so we are committing to improve on our speed of response and quality of response in relation to reports and queries made within the division and by extension the force.
Right. Yes. I'm happy that you speak to not just community policing but also customer service and our speed of response, because oftentimes this is a cry of our stakeholders, our community members. I made that report how long? I am happy to say, ASP, and I trust that you can echo the same sentiment, that we are getting out of that phase where our juniors or our subordinates are saying to our community members, we don't have transport. But we are at the stage whereby we are able to respond. But I also want to add and say to our listeners, when a complaint comes in, yes, we respect that it is serious or it is at that level for you, but we also do our own triaging as to all that we have to deal with, which is the needs first hand or priority or expedite response. But we have sought to respond to all reports within 72 hours mandated based on the needs go by. But it would be remiss of us sitting here this morning and do not say thank you to RRU, be it Western or Eastern, for their tremendous support within the year 2024, and even by extension SSU for their support as other arms of the RGPF within our day-to-day functioning. What's your position on that?
Well, certainly. As you said, we work in close collaboration with those two units, because when we have to mount a quick response based on the nature of the report, we call on them, especially, for example, the RRU, because they are the rapid response unit.
Right.
So the nature of their job is to mount a quick response, and I can safely say that they will do that without fail. So I could tell you the officer in charge of RRU, ASP Jude Francis, whenever I call him, whatever time of the day, he would always find a way to render some assistance, and in quick time. He is now off on some well-deserved vacation rest, having exhausted himself for the Yulide season. And I say to him, my friend, enjoy your rest,
Yes.
to come back for the final leg of your journey with the Rgpf. And holding the fort right now again is another young man, powerful, committed professional, Sergeant Mike Morris. I dare say a classmate and a co-mate of mine, right? And so I know, I mean, his work speaks for itself, so I know again, and that is where preparation comes in, leadership, succession planning. Yes. So there has been a smooth passing of the baton, so to speak, from the ASP to the sergeant. So I say, fear not that the RRU is still in safe hands. And of course, we know well, the SSU, the head of the SSU is a veteran in this business, and again, always there when you call upon him. I also want to mention, we work well with units like the drug squad and so CID. Those are the units that really provide a lot of assistance to us. And, although because they might be wondering why I'm saying why we're calling our different units if we're talking about the Rgpf. But each of these units has specialized role to play. But even when we have the general function, what we call a routine policing, they would come in and assist. And that is why we want to mention them, because a lot of the routine policing work, they assist us in addition to their mandate.
So let us quick, because we are almost at the top of our hour. There had been other stakeholders that we had the opportunity to work with and has done well. I always learn that starting to call names land you in trouble because you may just miss someone. But from your level and the chat which you sit, I extend that privilege to you to just give an open thank you and to let them know that the relationship that was in 2024 can continue and even enhance for 2025.
Yeah, as you said, yes, I wouldn't go venturing into names lest I get myself in trouble. But just to say, our stakeholders, you know who you are.
Yes.
And the truth is, some of them like to work behind the scenes, not even seeking mention. And so we just want to make you know on record on behalf of the officer in charge and the entire Eastern Division, our profound gratitude to you for all your assistance, all your collaboration with us for 2024. And just to say the work continues in 2025, and we intend to do bigger and better things. So I also pray for success in your business and your endeavors, and may God continue to bless and keep us as a country.
Right. So we have showered blessings on our stakeholders. I would allow you now to do the same to our management team, and I speak more so of that of the Eastern Division.
All right, so thank you again. As I said, yes, so for the majority of the year 2024, the Eastern Division was commanded by Superintendent Paul Christopher, who did an excellent job on providing guidance and stewardship and so. A matter of fact, he did such an excellent job that he received an elevation, that he was now brought into police headquarters as the officer in charge of operations for the entire Rgpf. So we want to both congratulate him and thank him for his service to the Eastern Division for 2024. We know he will continue to work with us. There was a smooth transition, succession planning to ASP Gillian Thomas, who is doing a wonderful job, continuity, injecting his own touch, making sure that we get the job done and we get it done to a standard, that is acceptable and efficient. We have ASP Gill, who just came back into regular from being in a specialized division. His whole career and he is bringing a fresh look
Yeah.
to the thing, and injecting some inciting pieces into the puzzle. And again, we want to thank him, and indeed all the heads of departments, heads of stations and units within the division. You made it work, but I will not forget our foot soldiers, the rank and file, because we could have all the finest plan in the world. If they are not there to execute, we cannot execute. So the Eastern Division was successful because of you, the rank and file, and I place on record gratitude. And I know we're running out of time, so I will just use the opportunity to say to the listening public, as I say, God continue to protect our nation for 2025 and beyond. Let us continue to keep Grenada safe. Let us do what we are accustomed doing, as the buzzword that our sergeant always like to remind us: if you see something, say something, and we'll continue to ensure that Grenada remains the envy of the Caribbean and the wider world. So God bless everybody.
So I say thank you for being here this morning. It has been a wonderful program, my first program for 2025, and there's nothing else I need to say to you listeners than thank you for tuning in. See you next Wednesday with another program, The Conversation with the Rgpf.
Balance and easily track energy usage for your home or business. Report and receive alerts about power outages. Plus, stay up to date by receiving the